Don't touch that dial, because today on Lifestyle we go back into old-time radio, and our conductor for this hour is none other than Chuck Schaden. Stay with us for Lifestyle.
Headline News.
This is Headline News.
It's always on time.
Isn't it every 30 minutes?
Yeah, every 30 minutes for 30 minutes. I get the top stories fast.
And always updated.
Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev.
What else is there?
$10 and cents. Headline Sports is next.
I can turn to it any time.
The Hollywood Minute.
I use Headline News. My schedule's packed. I don't have time to waste.
Around the world every 30 minutes, this is Headline News.
The news network for modern times.
I'd like to tell you about a great radio station I found. It's Light FM 93.9 WLIT. Light FM plays light favorites, great songs by Neil Diamond, Barbra Streisand, and Kenny Rogers, along with today's softer songs by singers like Lionel Richie and Phil Collins. And they play them all in a row. You really ought to try it. Light FM 93.9. The call letters are WLIT. Light favorites, my favorites.
Great sounds that I grew up with was one of the most important sounds of radio in its whole lifetime. It was an exciting sound that came into our homes Monday, Wednesday, and Friday evenings. Listen to this.
Fiery horse with the speed of light, a cloud of dust, and a hearty Hi-Yo Silver, the Lone Ranger.
Oh, I love it. That is fantastic, Chuck. The Lone Ranger. Now, there are many hearts out there who are going...
Thrilling days of yesteryear.
Yeah. Their pulse is just exhilarated a little because they have memories.
That's right, and that's
this.
BT, you know.
BT, before
television.
Oh, yeah, that's right. This is great. When you were a kid listening to this Chuck Schaden, did you ever dream that you would be the person who would introduce this to new generations and keep it alive for so many?
No. I was usually sprawled on the floor in front of our Zenith console radio, you know, with the flickering green eye and the word Zenith.
You had one of the good ones.
Lightning letters. Oh, yeah, and it was wonderful just to listen to those programs, and it transported me as if that rug in our living room was a magic carpet, and it transported me away to the Golden West to listen to the Lone Ranger, or to listen to Buck Rogers in outer space, or Fibber McGee and Jack Benny and all those folks.
I loved all that stuff, but I couldn't wait till I got home for Jack Armstrong.
The All-American Boy. Now,
Who
sponsored Jack Armstrong?
Oh, don't do that to me, Jack Armstrong. Jack Armstrong.
Have you tried Wheaties?
Well, I forget. But you don't forget, and you know you may join us throughout this hour if you'd like to share memories or ask questions. We don't always have the opportunity to talk to you, Chuck. I mean, we hear you a lot, but we don't always have the opportunity to converse. So our number here is 530-8386, and we invite you to join us during this hour. I feel, and I shouldn't have done this, almost as if you're a man who needs no introduction. I've said very little about you. I think a lot of people know who you are, Chuck. That's true, isn't it? Through radio, through television.
It's been nice to be able to be connected with the golden age of radio, and to I always enjoy being the man who bridges the sound gap, as I say, between yesterday and today, because there are folks like myself, maybe you, who remember this from the old days, but there are a lot more people who never heard of it.
That's right.
And we've had the pleasure of introducing these wonderful vintage programs to a new audience. And for that audience, there's nothing nostalgic about it. It's new, and it's entertaining, and that's the secret of the whole thing, Pat. It's the fact that these shows were good in the first place,
That's
that
right.
they still
That's
can
right.
be received today.
Because what wasn't good is lost, I
That's
think.
right.
I mean, you no
Well,
matter
what
what
wasn't
you do.
good we don't care about, but
That's right.
what is good deserves a second shot.
I always feel that the kids today are really cheated. I know that seems a little naive, but I do. I feel like they are really missing out by not being able to share in the kind of expectations that we looked forward to. You were talking about running home from school. I remember that so well. I even remember running home at noon to listen to Old Ma Perkins.
And life can be beautiful.
That's right. All those good things that were really the soaps of that day.
Well, that was part of it, and the thing that the radio shows did for us was to nurture our imagination.
Mm-hmm.
We became a participant with radio. We were not an observer, as you are with TV and
Right.
the movies and everything else. With radio, you had to provide the costumes for the actors. You had to decorate the sets.
That's right.
And you had, if that black sedan is speeding off into the distance, you decided, what is it, a
believed
Chevy? Or a Ford? No, but whatever it was, it could
That's
be
right.
whatever you wanted. So it was perfect.
Sound effects. When I got old enough to realize what they were doing with sound effects, I thought, gee, that's the berries, because I bought every bit of it, everything I heard, the wind, everything. I believed it. It was just real.
Well, you were supposed to. You were supposed to, as a listener.
Chuck, how did you happen to end up in this position? How did you get to be the man who keeps the radio alive for all of us?
As a hobby for me. I was in the savings and loan business. I was in the newspaper business. I was a community newspaper editor, and as a hobby, I started collecting some of these radio shows. Didn't really realize that there were many of them to be collected, but I found a few here and there, and so I said, oh, gee, I'd like to have a few of these things. And as I discovered sources for these things, I rolled up my sleeves, boy, and said, this is what I want to hear. I love these things. I want to hear these shows, because you couldn't hear them anyplace. Well,
That's
I
right.
started
When it was over,
building,
it was over.
Yeah, and this was in the 60s. And I started building a collection. And, if you collect coins or stamps or baseball cards,
right,
you want to show off your collection. And there's only so many places where you can show off a collection of radio tapes. I mean, how many people can come over every Sunday afternoon and listen in your home,
I bet your wife was having big parties all the time.
Well, she was having problems with my ever-growing collection, because I started out, I remember having about 25 shows on tape, and I said to Ellen, my wife, if I just fill the rest of this shelf, I'll think I died and went to radio heaven. Well, now I have over 48,000 broadcasts of radio shows in the collection.
48,000.
Yeah. But anyway, I wanted to share these programs, and so I found myself, it's a long story, but I'll cut to the chase. I found myself with 3 hours of time on a small 1,000-watt daytime station in Evanston, Illinois. And Saturday afternoons, we started in May of 1970.
Okay, I was just going to ask you.
Now, Saturday afternoon in May, I mean, who's listening to the radio? Nobody's listening to the radio. Everybody's either out in their garden, they're at the Cubs game, and if they are listening to the radio, they're listening to the sports. Nobody was listening, I guess, except my mother and dad and my wife, and I wasn't real sure about my wife, But anyway, I started, and that's where we began with all of this stuff. And now we're on the CBS station.
You've
and
got a
everything.
lot of listeners now. You've got a big following, a lot of people enjoying. Well, of course, you always relate them to, you try to select shows that are close to the date. If it's Christmas, if it's whatever, you try to select
Well,
shows.
seasonally. And then I love to do tributes, too. Salutes and tributes. A salute is where we just focus on the talent of a performer and spotlight him. A tribute, unfortunately, is when someone notably passes away, and then we really try to devote all of our time to someone like that. Jim Backus recently died. Mel Blanc recently passed away. And we're devoting shows to them, showing their talents. And then, of course, being joyous in the fact that we still have these programs. They have gone, but the material that they created is still with us, and that's the joy of it all.
That is really something. But you didn't just stay with radio. You also slipped into TV.
Well, a little bit. I had Gary Deeb, who was the radio TV writer for the Chicago Tribune and the Sun-Times. Now he's on one of the TV stations here.
Right.
He called me the guru of nostalgia. So, and nostalgia really is my game, I suppose. And so I started a cable TV series called Nostalgia, where we would talk with really interesting people who had interesting collections, and we would cover. We went to the Lionel Train Factory, for example. We went to visit a man who has. You think this radio here is nice? He's got, you know, an office building loaded with radios. So we talked with him. We did
I remember a
short-lived
show.
series.
I remember a show that you did too, though, that I thought was just great, because I was a great one for if there was any kind of secret code rings and all that, you know, the kind of paraphernalia you could get through radio if you sent off for it.
The premiums.
That's right. And
yeah, that was a fun series. We had secret decoders and sheriff's badges and shake-up mugs and all kinds of stuff. That's the stuff that radio and dreams were made of in those days.
Happy days, but and they'd be gone, except for you, Chuck. Well, perhaps not gone altogether, but you brought them back to us in the nicest possible way.
I have a great deal of respect for those performers and the people who put together those radio shows, and I enjoy them very much, and that's why I enjoy sharing them.
We're going to come back. We're going to get a look at Chuck Schaden at work. We've got a little clip when we come back. But also we're going to visit that broadcast museum with your help. So stick with us, 530-8386. Coming right back.
Whether you want a rich contemporary look or something a little more soft and homey, CVN's Linen Closet has an assortment of some of the finest bed and bath accessories in America. From the dining room to the bedroom, the Linen Closet can redesign an entire room or add the perfect finishing touch. Watch CVN's Linen Closet, Thursdays, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific Time. Smart shoppers come home to CVN, the shopping channel.
Showtime's Hot Fun Celebration of Summer continues in July with the hottest movies and specials to hit TV this summer. Blockbuster hits like Bull Durham, concert specials like Steve Winwood, Roll With It, Showtime Championship Boxing Live, exclusive comedy like Andrea Martin, Together Again, plus the premiere of our new comedy, The Boys, and a whole lot more. You won't see them on HBO because they're Showtime exclusives. Here you see them, there you don't.
We were just talking here. Chuck Schaden is our guest today, guru of nostalgia. He just called himself, I think. Metro Golden Memories is your shop.
That's our store, yeah.
Has everything. I know you have the Maltese Falcons there, just in case you really have a need for a Maltese Falcon at
we
any
have
time in
the
your life.
Maltese Falcon. We have an Oscar look-alike. If you think you made a performance worthy of Oscar's award, you can get an Academy. I mean, it's not the Academy Award,
but it's close enough.
It's close enough. It'll serve any of us, right?
Well, say, we should get one. You should get one. Because really what you do, Chuck, is, first of all, 7 days a week. You're working 7 days a week. That's a lot. Are you really physically
Well, some of my
this?
material is on WBBM, for example, is pre-recorded. Although I do a 2-hour show on Sunday evenings, which is 98% of the time live. And then on Saturday afternoons, I do a broadcast on FM station WNIB, and that's a 4-hour show called Those Were the Days, and that emanates from the Museum of Broadcast Communications downtown at River City. And so with all of that and the preparation for the shows, I guess I do work 7 days a week on it. But I love it.
You work more than I do, Chuck.
I think anybody works more than you.
Yeah, because I like this, so it's a fun thing to do. Let's take a look. We do have a little clip of you at work at WBBM, and I think it might be interesting just to see you
Hope you didn't
in
catch me
action.
sleeping here.
Nah, never. Let's take a look at that.
WBBM Sports Cubs beat the Dodgers, and the Sox lost to Kansas City, and Boris Becker and Steffi Graf are the new Wimbledon champs. AccuWeather says clear and warm tonight, low 73 to 78. The high tomorrow could be 100. Stay with us. We'll have old-time radio next at 8 o'clock.
Around the world every 30 minutes. WBBM, Chicago. Don't touch that dial. This is Chuck Schaden inviting you to stay tuned for 2 hours of great entertainment on our weekend edition of Old Time Radio Classics from WBBM in Chicago. It's Sunday, July 9th, 1989, and on tonight's Nostalgia Night program, we're going to tune into comedy with Fibber McGee and Molly, Bud Abbott and Lou Costello, George Burns and Gracie Allen, and drama with Jack Webb and Dragnet. And we'll be talking with a man who worked for virtually every network out of New York City during the golden age of radio, Paul Renard. So pull up your imagination and stay tuned. It all begins in just a minute.
Having your car stolen gives you a very...
So that's how you look, huh?
Yeah, that's I did not realize that.
So that's how you look like when you're working. Well, you know, that's interesting because people who listen to these shows, and we do, we're very often traveling, our hometown is Kankakee, our family's there, and we're very often traveling back and forth on Saturdays. And more often than not, if you're on, we'll turn to it, you know, and follow whatever the particular star or show.
It's really wonderful to listen to the old radio shows when you're traveling.
It is.
The miles just roll away, and I know that there's people, I've gotten calls from men who say their wives want to go shopping on Saturday and they need to drive the wives around for some reason. And one car, I suppose. And so they said, go ahead, I'll take you anywhere you want, but I'm going to stay in the car. I'm going to listen to those were the days, you know, listen to the old radio shows. Or we get calls on Sunday evenings from people who say they're coming in from the lakes, for example, in the summertime. And they're driving all the way in, listening to the old, you know, Love Jack Benny or Dragnet or whatever we have. It's really very gratifying.
Are you on this evening?
Tonight, 8 o'clock. Don't touch that dial.
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
Isn't that something?
News Radio.
We're going to be traveling. We'll turn you on and enjoy. Now we know how you look too. See, while you're doing that.
You thought I looked like Clark Gable, didn't you?
Just when you're on the radio. No, but I'll bet people are.
Everybody it's just like if you talk to someone on the telephone, and you never meet them in person, you have an idea of what they look like.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with radio listeners. They have an image of what the voice conveys to them. And really that's the beauty of radio, because you use your imagination and they create the picture. Now people who come down to the museum, for example, on Saturdays and see me there, they will sometimes say, you know, you look just like you sound. Or they'll say, oh, I thought you'd be taller. Or I thought you'd be shorter, or I thought you'd be older. Most people, and it's really nice, most people think that I'm older because of the interest? The material that I deal with, see, which is terrific, you know. No, fine, oh, you're not as old as I thought. You know. Of course, I don't know, maybe they thought I was 87 or something. But like Jack Benny, 39 and holding. You know.
And holding. Aren't we all? Let's talk about the Broadcast Museum. We have a clip from there, too, and maybe we can take a look at it as you're telling us about the museum. This is a wonderful treasure now.
It's dedicated to the collection of radio and television shows. The museum was founded 2 years ago. I'm a member of the board of directors of the museum. It's great. Look at this.
Chicago Pioneer Radio. The first kid shows.
It's Adventure Time with Orphan Annie.
The first audience participation shows.
First call to breakfast. For all of you out there. America, wait for breakfast, love will run the air.
And the first dramas, written especially for radio.
Light out everybody.
The Chicago School of Radio and Television is more an attitude on the part of the performers and the technicians and the workers.
Chicago understood the impact of the new medium of television.
Just think. Now, who else can we ask? Well, let's see. Could we ought to ask Jules Herberville. Yeah.
At that day, this was a novelty. It never quit being a novelty. And I never quit playing the fact that it was a novelty.
Television was new. We were new.
And it was on in the afternoon and early evening. People would run, and we'd have people in the house looking at test patterns or just blank snow.
In Chicago television, everything was tried.
We had no inhibitions about doing it our own way. We just didn't know any other way, and our way happened to be terribly refreshing.
It was improvisation. There was no formula, nothing written on paper word for word. the creative spirits, the actors, the director, the producer, the writer, could go at will. Will you kindly get me a cup of Café Noir, please? And a what? Without cream.
I'll have a Café Noir also, Grace.
Just make mine black.
2 noirs and 1 black.
You know, you fellas should lead a life of more dimension.
Tears in our eyes.
The Museum of Broadcast Communications represents 65 years of priceless treasures.
Feeling mighty blue. Read my Nielsen and my Trendex too. Got a 30 rating, competition 32.
There are several ways to enjoy the museum.
Gee, it's great to look back. You know that?
You know,
Hugo,
that's...
Fran, and
yeah,
Ollie.
Studs Place, Studs Terkel was
I
on
know.
there, yeah.
You identified him for me, and I don't think I don't think I remembered that really, but
That's-
folks out there do, I'm
that's,
sure.
That's part of the collection at the Museum of Broadcast Communication. This film, we just saw just a few
smidge
seconds
of it,
here,
yeah.
really. It runs about 15 minutes. It plays every day at the Museum of Broadcast Communications, giving kind of an introduction to the museum.
And an overview of.
Right, right. And then you can come in and you can take out your choice of hundreds of television programs or radio shows, take them to the Art Nielsen Research Center at the museum, and plug them in and watch or listen. Yeah, it's a terrific resource for the city and for the country.
You also have really great speakers there. And I know Steve Allen was just in this last
Steve Allen
week.
was there. We've had all kind. Milton Berle was at the museum at one time. Hundreds of people.
I hear something now.
What could it be?
I don't know.
The voices from the past come
They
down
want
through the
in
ether over the
here and right through this radio, and it's not even on. It's a miracle. There it is again. Somehow we're getting the sound of it in here, which is all right because it doesn't bother me
Those
at
things
all. I
travel
love
with me
that.
all the time, Pat. Wherever I am, I'm swirling around with the voices of the past.
Yeah, well, it happens that way. But you have a lot of guests back. Maybe when we come back, we can talk about that, too, because great people like Steve Allen coming back to help pass on radio to the next generation. I want you to stay with us. We're coming back, 530-8386.
Some people think that the only way to get you to watch classic movies is to color them in. But let's face it, if they were supposed to be in color, they would have been made in color. That's why on American Movie Classics, we show films the way the artists intended, in their original form, without artificial coloring.
Hey, Stella!
American Movie Classics. We don't monkey around with the originals.
Busy schedules drive me crazy and take years off my youthful appearance. Hooray for Home Shopping Club. Between work and the hairdresser, it's tough to find time for the fun things, like shopping. You can shop TV's Home Shopping Club day or night, even when your hair's a mess. You'll get brand name products without paying brand name prices. No traffic, crowds, or long lines. Busy schedules? Aha! No problem. Tune in Home Shopping Club.
Glad to have you back. Chuck Schaden is our guest. We're talking while you're gone. Do we care? No, we go right on talking here. There's so much to know, so much to enjoy. You are a walking storehouse of history when it comes to radio and
I
television.
am cluttered with trivia.
That's funny.
You remember Fibber McGee's hall clock?
You're it, huh?
That's me, yeah.
Just don't open the door.
Don't open the door, you're endangered.
Oh, that's funny. Someone would like to join our conversation, so let's say, hi, welcome to Lifestyle. You're on the air.
Yeah, Chuck?
Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering if you remembered a radio program in the 40s, an adventure type, called Peter Quill?
I know of a radio show called Peter Quill. Peter Quill!
Yeah.
It was very...
I don't remember
very
that.
short time. It was on the air for a very short time, and it is one of 2 or 3 radio shows that I have been searching for 25 years. I've never been able to come across one of those broadcasts.
Yeah, because I was inquiring about it, you know, on occasion, and I thought maybe it had been a figment of my imagination. I'm glad you were.
No,
able
you're
to.
sane. You're sane, but it just does not surface. But have no fear. Sometime you will hear. It'll come around. Because I don't believe that those old shows are lost. I think that they're hidden, and we'll uncover it someplace.
Okay. And I just wanted to tell Pat I really enjoy your show.
Oh, thank you very much. Nice to have you with us today.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Again, our number is 530-8386, which brings up a question I didn't even intend to ask, but it struck a memory here. I always wondered, when I was a kid growing up, there was someone in the morning, a fella on radio, who would tell you to get over in front of the radio and stand there and dress, and he'd say, oh, your ribbon isn't tied, or, do you know who I'm talking about?
Happy Hank.
Happy Hank.
Yeah, he was sponsored by Cocoa Malt.
That's right.
And he would look through the little green eye in your radio, and he'd say, pick up those socks and put them away.
That's right.
Pick
Happy
up your
Hank.
stuff, yeah, and march around, collect this. Don't leave this stuff on the floor for your mother.
You know, it's like finding an old friend. Do you know that? It really is. Talking about something like that is like finding... are some of these collectible and expensive, as you were talking about Peter Quill here, to find tape on him or audio?
No, I wouldn't call them expensive to find. I mean, sometimes you may have to...
Valuable.
You mean valuable? Well, once a show is found, then it has no greater value than the next show that you have. There are rare shows because you may... If I were to find a Peter Quill broadcast, for example, then I would have one, and I would say that's very rare because there is only one of those shows. But now somehow, suppose, and this happens to me once in a while because of my visibility with the old-time radio stuff, the phone rings, and they say, I don't know if you'd be interested in this or not. Well, I'm always ready now. What is this going to be? See? And they would say, I found this, or I have that. And if someone called me and said, I have a Peter Quill broadcast, I would be thrilled. I would go almost any place to collect that show from him, whether he had it on a disc or somehow. Now, if I had the one, it would be very rare. But if he said, now, I found these, and I've got 25 16-inch transcription discs, each one carrying a Peter Quill program. Now, that would be quite a find, but they would not be very rare then anymore once we had 25 of them, see? And then we try to move them into the collector's network. Because I'm a collector, that's how I started with all of this, and there are other collectors across the country who are saving the shows. And Pat, every time I play an old radio show on the air, if I were to open up the window of the studio, I would hear a large, loud click. That's all the tape recorders going on.
Just a tape.
People taping them, see? Taping. I asked somebody once, they says, well, you're collecting a lot on tape. Oh, yeah, because someday you'll be off the air. And I said, oh, thanks a lot. Against the day when I'm gone, you know. And then they're also editing out the contemporary commercials. Now, we're on commercial radio, so when we play the old shows, we may indeed play some of the old commercials, and we leave those intact where we can. But then we'll pause in a show, and then we'll do a commercial for a contemporary sponsor of some sort. Well, then the people who are taping very often will stop their tape, let the new commercial go by, and then start the tape again, see? So they're editing out half the stuff, but they're listening, and they're enjoying it. And I encourage people to tape the shows, because if you are sufficiently interested to have a collection of your own, then I'm really happy to help you get it, you know.
That's nice. You know, we have a clip, and it isn't a radio clip, it is an early TV clip of Amos and Andy. They're interesting. This is an interesting concept. This was a great team, wasn't it? A radio team. You're just telling me here during the break that the radio team was entirely different than the...
Freeman Gosden and Charles Correll created Sam and Henry for WGN in Chicago. Then they moved over to WMAQ, which was going to be a CBS station, and they changed the names of Sam and Henry to Amos and Andy. Gosden and Correll were white men. Amos and Andy were black characters on radio. So successful.
That's right.
So successful that theater owners advertised on the marquee that they would stop the movie and pipe in the radio show and then resume the movie. Otherwise, no one would have gone to the show to watch the picture. That's how popular. You could walk down the street on a summer night in the days before air conditioning, when people would have their windows open, sitting on the front porches, and they'd all be listening to Amos and Andy. You could walk down the street and hear the whole show without missing a sentence, because everybody was listening to Amos and Andy.
Now that's hard for young people right now it's got to be hard to imagine if you haven't experienced anything like
That's
this. You
how
can't
popular.
imagine that.
Now, when
it's
they
a
went to
phenomenon.
television, they didn't want white actors in blackface doing black people, so they got they had a very diligent search to try to match the actor with the voices that had been established, and they did a real good job. But they got black actors and an all-black cast, and they were extremely popular on television. And then the civil rights movement came along, and they happened. Amos and Andy happened to be very visible, and so the NAACP and others said, "Wait a minute, this is not an accurate portrayal of black life in America." And it's true, it wasn't an accurate portrayal of black life in America, but Life of Riley was not an accurate portrayal of Irish life in America, and Life with Luigi was not accurately portraying Italians, and so forth and so on. But they were at the wrong place at the wrong time, and so they moved them out of the, they stopped having it on TV for fear of offending people.
This hour is going to fly by. You've got to get in and join us if you want to, 530-8386. And when we come back, I think we'll just come right back in with Amos and Andy and take a look at them, so that in case you didn't know them, you'll get a chance to see them firsthand, or you might just want to remember.
Looking for someplace to while away the wee hours? Hello out there from TV Land, where the neon flashes all night on Nick at Night.
Plus, the damn door of the air conditioning is on.
Come on in. The conversation's always stimulating.
I'm doing pretty good myself.
The food is always satisfying.
Hot roast, mashed potatoes.
And the company never ceases to amaze.
I'd made Elliot Ness look like somebody out on bail.
So don't forget to stop by for your late night comedy nosh.
Can I have the liver, please?
We're open all night on Nick at Night.
When it comes to work around the house, I am a klutz. But there is one thing I do well. This is not it. Maintaining my pool is. Well, thanks to the Pace two-step system, my pool is always clean and clear. It's practically foolproof. Pace concentrated chlorinator every few days. Pace shock regularly. You can't go wrong. I know, I've tried. Save up to $10 on the Pace two-step system. See your Pace retailer for details.
The first scene is the father's waiting room in a hospital. The time is 9 years ago. Amos is waiting for his daughter, Arbadella, to be born. And here is Andy Brown, Arbadella's godfather-to-be. And this is the call Andy has been waiting for.
Hello. Hello. Andy, I got Ruby over to the hospital. Ain't nothing happened yet, but I don't think it's going to be too long now.
Yeah, I was just sitting around waiting. Call me up in case.
What? Ruby's in the hospital. I'll be right over. Don't worry about nothing. Take it easy. Relax. We got to keep level heads in a time like this.
Well, you got to admit, it's kind of hard to believe, though, that the whole world would stop every evening to
Well, the whole world didn't stop for the TV, Amos and Andy, but they did for the radio. For television, the world stopped for I Love Lucy.
That's right.
It was I Love Lucy that they stopped for. You could go into any department store on a Monday night when Lucy was on, and it would be filled with people, not shopping, but standing around the television department watching the TV. The salesmen, the customers, the clerks, everybody.
There were a lot of great teams, of course. Amos and Andy were one of those teams. Lum and Abner were another team.
Lum and Abner, yeah.
And there's somebody sitting out there thinking, I never heard of Lum and Abner, maybe
they were. Well, Lum and Abner were kind of rural comedians. Chester Lauk and Norris Goff were the names of the two men who played Lum and Abner. They were very young men, and they donned for publicity pictures and things, and for movies. They donned makeup, hayseed makeup. They were almost hillbilly. They operated the Jot 'em Down store in the fictional town of Pine Ridge, Arkansas, which was later given to a real. The name was given to a real town, and they were very popular in the radio days. You know, simpler times called for simpler kinds of programs, and they just did very easy going back and forth chatter.
Some things translate well even now into this period of time. Would Lum and Abner translate well now?
I think Lum and Abner today could find its audience.
Really?
Lum and Abner was extremely popular in the 30s and 40s when they were on radio. Proportionately, they couldn't be as popular today because there's so many different things vying for people's attention. But if Lum and Abner were on a regular basis, even in the hard, sophisticated metropolitan centers of America, they could find an audience, and people would enjoy listening to them.
We ought to give you the opportunity to let you listen, let you take a look, see what you think of Lum and Abner.
Lum, suppose you hold a nail in place while I whack it with a hammer.
You think I'm crazy?
The trouble here is we're suffering from an oversupply of whackers.
Have you ever seen me hit anybody on the thumb with a hammer?
Yes. Last summer when Opie Cates helped you put up the screens.
That was just a little tap.
Tap? You smacked that thumb so flat it looked like he's carrying around a pancake flipper.
Why, he didn't even holler.
He let out such a beller all the fellers at the sawmill knocked off for lunch.
You stop exaggerating and hold that nail. Granny.
Lum, you couldn't hit that nail no matter if your whole life depended on it.
Oh, now be quiet. This
is my page flipping finger here, Lum. Be
just
careful.
hold the nail in place. Okay, here goes. There. Now, how was that?
Not bad. Just aim it 2 more feet to the left, and I think you'll have it.
The trouble is the top of the nail is too small.
You couldn't drive that nail if I stuck it in between my teeth and let you hit me on the back of the head.
Don't give me any ideas. Now, just hold it in place. This time I'll keep my eyes open.
Good. Think one of us ought to know what's going on.
You ready now?
Yeah.
Here it goes.
Oh, you idiot. Why don't you watch what you're doing?
Abner Peabody, I didn't even touch that hand.
I know you didn't. You got the one I had in my pocket.
Well, I don't know. What did that do to you? Does that excite you? Of course, see, that's just, again, that's a smidge, and it's picked up
Well,
out
you get
of
a taste
time.
of it. Yeah.
That's right.
That actually, Lum and Abner had 2 lives on radio, so did Amos and Andy have 2 lives on radio. They each started out doing 15-minute shows every night of the week. And then in the 40s, they moved to a 30-minute format with an audience, with a studio audience. In the 15-minute shows, they were just 2 guys in front of the microphone doing this homespun humor, and Amos and Andy doing their kind of humor. Then they moved to a studio audience, did a half-hour show, and became very big in the
studio
in the
audiences were very important.
Oh yeah.
As radio grew.
People who listen to radio shows today sometimes think that the laughter in a studio audience is canned, but in radio it was never canned. It was always real, and the laughter was genuine. They never had to sweeten it with the electronics, because the material was so good.
Was that good?
The writing was great.
Let's take a phone call. Hi, welcome to Lifestyle. You're on the air.
Hi, Chuck.
Yes.
How's it going?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
I'd like to thank you from the younger generation of all the great for bringing imagination back to us, because in this generation of such a television age, where it's taken away from us, you've really given us a lot of good shows to listen to, and radio really does let us use our imagination more so than TV.
Well, you're nice to say. I appreciate that. Yeah.
How very nice. Do you remember radio, or are you just really getting it the second time around?
Well, I'm in my 20s, and I've listened to them since I was in 4th grade, and I got sent to my room one day by accident, and I discovered them on the stereo, and I've been listening since.
Oh, well, thanks. You made me feel a lot older all of a sudden.
No, but that's a nice compliment, and that's why you're doing this, isn't it, Chuck? I mean, this is what gives you your pleasure.
The reason for my work, Pat, is to bring this stuff forward and give it to anybody who wants to hear it. I think it's important. I think there's quality entertainment on radio, And as long as I'm around and as long as I can do it, I'll be doing it.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for joining us.
All right, appreciate it. Like the show.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Again, our number here is 530-8386. If you'd like to talk to Chuck Schaden yourself, this is your opportunity. Maybe you have a memory that you'd like to share. People remember things as having happened with radio. I remember when, I hate to say this, but I remember when President Roosevelt passed away, Ma Perkins went off the air. I'd come home, I must have been, I don't know, early grade school, and I'd come home and hear Ma Perkins was off for so many days. All those shows were gone. I was really upset, not understanding what, you know.
That's true. Well, when FDR died, all the networks pushed everything off the dial.
Right.
And they played documentaries, they did lots of music, lots of classical music, semi-classical music, organ music. They felt in respect to the president, they would push all of that off. And if you may remember when John F. Kennedy was assassinated, virtually the same thing happened
on television.
On television.
That's right.
For almost all that time. I remember the only entertainment thing that came on television came on the night after the funeral, that evening of the funeral.
Right.
And I think Channel 9 in Chicago showed Abe Lincoln in Illinois without commercials or something like that. It was fascinating. It's from a viewer's perspective, from a listener's perspective, those kinds of things are really dramatic, you know.
Do you watch television and listen to radio differently because of your interest? I mean, are you listening for certain things that maybe we're just, you know, everything comes in and goes out, but are you?
Sometimes I can't help but picking on little things here or there. I suppose I'm a little more critical. But mostly I like to, you know, turn it off, turn this off, and listen to it for what it's supposed to be, or watch it for what it's supposed to be. I can't help compare the writing between radio and television. And, you know, you listen to a Jack Benny program from 1949, and you, with a stopwatch, clock the laughs. You'll get more laughs in Jack Benny, a 30-minute show in 1949, than you'll get from the whole season on television from one sitcom.
That's quite a comment on the times, isn't it? It really is. I thank you for that comment, and we're going to be coming right back. 530-8386. You may join us. Time's flying.
Summer, the Superstation's gonna celebrate with a little sizzle. Add a little sizzle to your summer with the best from Superstation TBS.
Turner Network Television, the new channel on cable TV with all kinds of good stuff. TNT, bringing back thousands of classic movies, more than 250 every month. TNT, the exclusive home of Muppets, Fraggles, Gorgs, and Doozers. TNT, new original motion pictures, movies you can't see anywhere else. The good stuff's on TNT. If you can't find the new TNT channel, consult your listings or check with your cable operator.
I don't do it too often.
Chuck Schaden and I are visiting, and this is a good hour, but it's a quick hour. Other people would like to get into the act here. Aha, you'd like to talk to Chuck Schaden too, huh? Hello, welcome to Lifestyle. You're on the air.
Hello.
Hi there.
Yes, this is a question for both Pat and Chuck.
All right.
You were talking about Happy Hank a little while ago.
Yes.
But I'd say that was Jolly Joe.
Well, Jolly Joe was another morning personality who had the kid show. That was Joe Kelly, Jolly Joe Kelly, who had a kind of a kid show.
And
remember that?
He had a theme song of tie a little string around your finger. Tie a little string around your finger so you'll remember me, any little thing that makes you linger in my memory.
Well, you really remember, huh?
Oh, I can sing it from beginning to end.
We're going to send her an invisible
anyway,
facsimile.
Happy Hank and Jolly Joe sounds very much alike.
Well, we're not talking originality here. We're talking personality.
Did Happy Hank look you over before you went to school to see if you were all together?
Yes, I think that was part of it too.
That's all I could remember.
If there is any tapes or recording of Jolly Joe.
No, unfortunately, there isn't anything that survives with Jolly Joe or Happy Hank. Jolly Joe was Joe Kelly, as I said, and he was the quiz master on the Quiz Kids radio show, and there are a lot of Quiz Kids shows around. He was also the MC on the National Barn Dance. We used to come out of WLS in Chicago, and there are a few of those shows around. But as far as Jolly Joe is concerned, I'm sorry. You keep looking.
Thanks a lot.
Keep it in your memory.
Yeah, hang on to those memories. They're good ones. Thanks for joining us. Let's take another phone call. Hi, you're on the air.
I just wanted to ask Chuck if the original Honeymooners television show, if they were on radio before they went to television?
No. No, the Honeymooners was unique to television. Art Carney and Jackie Gleason created that just for TV. They never did anything on radio. I always felt that the Honeymooners, Carney and Norton and Cramden,
yes,
always felt that they were to television what Laurel and Hardy were to the movies, and what Phil Harris and Frankie Remley were to radio on the old Phil Harris Alice Faye show. They were geniuses, but they didn't do anything on radio, I'm afraid.
I just wanted to mention to Pat, I was enjoying meeting you at Elmfest under the tent and having an old style, if you remember that.
I do. It's a pleasure to hear from you. Thanks for calling in.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You were under the tent or under the weather?
No, enjoying Elmfest. That's really nice of you to call in. Thanks. I said to him, remember we were here, and if you ever call in.
Oh, good.
That's how I can remember who people are. Hi, welcome to Lifestyle. You're on the air.
Hi. I wanted to ask Chuck a question about Lum and Abner.
Yes.
I heard, I don't know if this is true, I wanted you to tell me if it was true or not, that was Andy Griffith's favorite radio show when he was growing up, and he based his Mayberry series on that. And even the clip you had, it had the name Opie in it. And I just was wondering, because they're both kind of quiet and peaceful and soft compared to some of the other radio shows.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me at all. I would think that Andy Griffith would have enjoyed Lum and Abner. I don't know for a fact that was his favorite show. Opie Cates was the name of the band leader on the Lum and Abner show, the orchestra leader on the show. But I'm sure that Andy Griffith, that probably was a popular name in the South as well.
Okay. I also wanted to ask if you were going to do something special this weekend or in the near future with, I didn't hear the beginning of the show, with Mel Blanc's passing.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be spending a lot of time on Saturday afternoon on WNIB, that's 97 FM, with a tribute to Mel Blanc. I have a 1971 interview that I had with Mel. We'll be playing that, and we'll be playing clips from a half a dozen Jack Benny radio shows featuring Mel Blanc. And then on Sunday night on WBBM, News Radio 78, we'll be doing a 2-hour tribute to Mel Blanc.
Did you ever meet Mel Blanc?
Yes, I did.
have to interrupt and ask.
Yeah.
Because I know you've done a lot of interviews with past radio personalities. Yes, and
he was a wonderful man. He was a great guy, real easy. He was not stingy with his talent. You'd talk to him and say hello. I mean, you might meet him and he would say hello. And he'd say, "Hey, what's up, Doc?" I mean, he'd go boom right into the voices.
He knew what you wanted to hear, right?
Absolutely. No, he was a wonderful person, and we will be paying our respects to Mel on Saturday afternoon and Sunday night this weekend.
Okay. One more thing. I don't mean to take up everybody's time.
Go right ahead.
But I've talked to you before on the radio, and I wanted to reinforce what the man said earlier about imagination. I've told you this before, is that I teach and I use your radio shows in my lessons in creative writing because it enhances and reinforces their imagination and stimulates their mind and creativity more than the television does, because the television is so blatant and everything is right there. There's nothing for them to imagine or think about.
Oh,
what a nice
for you. That's
compliment.
Wonderful.
Wow.
Your students are lucky. They're real lucky to have you. Thank you.
Okay. Have a good day.
Thank you for joining us. And
okay, bye.
That's got to make you feel
it sure does.
Sky high.
Absolutely, yeah. It's all worthwhile, you know.
Of course, when you say it's all worthwhile, you love it. I mean, you're every night practically now you're involved. Let's get straight. Every night. Sunday afternoons.
Saturday afternoons, Sunday nights, yeah.
And when you're not there, you're in your shop, I guess.
Well, I mean, they're
dealing with
regularly,
nostalgia.
yeah, right. Publish a magazine called the Nostalgia Digest.
Is that true? Okay,
yeah.
That's good to know. When you're off on vacation, it's got to be vacation time when you're picking up some of these interviews. I hear they're out in California,
that's
places
right.
like that.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, you know. It's fun.
A great quest that you have. It's our pleasure that you bring back such a treasure. We're going to continue, of course. Stay with us, 530-8386. Your last chance to talk to Chuck Schaden. So to those phones right now.
A government report released on school lunches. This and more as the news continues.
Good morning.
Sweater or coat on your way to work or school this
Milk
morning.
didn't used to cost this much.
Over the
Ohio.
pushing
Give me a kiss.
higher in London. Very slow trading though. Yesterday, as millions of American youngsters go back to classes, the Education Secretary is already issuing a report card on their schools from grades 1.
For all the reasons in the world, stay informed with CNN every morning.
I'm driving home, and all I want to do is put my day behind me and relax a little so I don't bite somebody's head off when I get home. So I turn on the radio, hit the scan button, trying to find some music I can relax to. Finally, I found the perfect station, Light FM at 93.9. It's the only station that lets you relax without acid rock. But it's not elevator music either. Billy Joel, Neil Diamond, Barbra Streisand, they play them all in a row. That's Light FM, WLIT at 93.9. Light favorites, my favorites.
Yeah, very much. Right.
Chuck Schaden is our guest. Gee, we're enjoying him. And we're in the last segment. I think we've got something like 7 minutes. I know there's a phone call, and we're going to get to that right away. But I first of all want to let you know how you can be in touch. First of all, the Museum of Broadcast Communications, which is a great place. They can reach you there as in any...
I'm there virtually every Saturday afternoon.
Well, there it is. But also, you've got to get down there and enjoy it yourself anyway. It's,
Absolutely.
I have to admit, I haven't been there, so I'm looking forward to it.
I'm going to do the 50-cent tour one of these days. Okay?
Oh, I'd love that, a 50-cent tour. 987, those must be back in the good old days, right? 987-1500 if you'd like to find out when it's open and make arrangements. 987-1500. Do you have to make arrangements before you go down?
No, you can come in at any time. If you have a large group, we'd like to know about it in advance because then we can be prepared to give you a special tour.
Mm-hmm. Do a lot of classrooms?
All the time. Almost 6-7 days a week we have groups coming in, senior citizen groups, student groups. And when we know in advance, then we can plan programming material for them, you know.
Sounds fun. Now, if you'd like to be in touch with Chuck through his shop, Metro Golden Memories, where you can get the Maltese Falcon. Can't get those everywhere, you know. It's located at 5424 West Addison, and that's in Chicago. And the phone number there is 736. I'm sorry?
736.
Okay, we have it backwards here, and I think we even do. Don't look at the TV because it's wrong there. So don't look there. It's 736-4133. Now that's Metro Golden Memories. 736-4133. And during the break, he was saying to me, you know, he said, I am always accessible. If somebody really wants information or wants to know something.
By meeting the listener, I know who's out there. You know, you sit in a studio and you talk on a microphone. You sit in this studio and you look into cameras, but you don't always see the people out there.
That's right. I'm so thrilled when I get to meet the people.
Yeah, I want to meet the people. I love to know who's listening. I like to know what they want to hear.
That's right.
I like to know what interests them. I like to know what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong, you know. That's the communications that we're talking about.
Someone is listening right now and is corresponding with us. Hi, you're on the air.
Hi.
Hi, who is this?
This is Joan.
Yeah, Joan.
I have a question for Chuck. My favorite recollection of the old-time radio programs was Cecil B. DeMille's Lux Theater, I believe it was called, on Monday night.
Theater.
And I have listened to Chuck Schaden now and again, but I've never heard that. Now, I don't know if I've just missed them or he doesn't play those. So that's my question.
Well, you've just missed them because we do play them. We regularly play the Lux Radio Theater. It was, in its time, one of the 5 most popular radio shows on the air for all the years it was on. It was a Monday night fixture on CBS, 8 o'clock, and they used to say, Lux presents Hollywood, and they do a radio version, a dramatization of a current movie. And we do a lot of that, especially on our Saturday afternoon program on WNIB. So tune in.
I see. Okay, I will tune in. It's just that I've just missed it since that was my favorite. I wanted to ask that question.
Listening at the
Thanks a
wrong
lot.
time. We're glad you joined us today so that you can find the right time to listen now and get your favorite program. I was thinking, listening to her again, jars memories, you know, I was thinking of things like The Shadow, Let's Pretend.
Can you sing the Let's Pretend Cream of Wheat jingle?
Oh, don't do that to me.
Cream of wheat is so
good to eat, and we have it every day. Oh.
We sing,
Are you singing out there? Of course you are. Listen, we have some slides. Going back, looking back, let's take a look at these real quick because our time's almost up, but it gives us an opportunity to kind of jar memories. Arthur Godfrey and Jeanette Davis.
Jeanette Davis.
Well, you know, we had the sisters on here, the McGuire sisters, not too long ago.
That's Eddie Cantor, and you know what that is? That's Deanna Durbin, protege of his. One of the great singing stars, young singing star. Edgar Bergen, Charlie McCarthy, and Mortimer Snurr. Yep, Mr. Bergen.
There are people out there who only know the name Candace Bergen.
That's right.
That's Edgar Bergen's daughter.
Father. That's Fibber McGee and Molly in the front, Jim and Marion Jordan. That's Arthur Q. Bryan on the right, and Bill Thompson on the left. Arthur Q. Bryan played Doc Gamble, and Bill Thompson was the old-timer on that show. And there's George and Gracie.
Oh my gosh.
She's gone.
And
but George Burns is still going strong.
Now that's amazing.
92 years old, yeah.
Do you find many radio people who are enjoying the age that this man is?
A lot of them are up there. You know, Mel Blanc was 81. You know,
That's
there's Harold Perry,
the great
as the great Gildersleeve, and looking over his shoulder is Walter Tetley, who played his nephew Leroy.
You know, once you hear that voice, you just only have to see the picture to hear the voice back in your mind again.
I'll bet you this is Orson Welles.
It is indeed. War of the Worlds.
Yeah, the Mercury Theater on the air, 1938, scared half the country. You know why I didn't scare the other half?
The power of radio. They didn't have it on?
They listened to Charlie McCarthy.
The power of radio.
I do it. That's Red Skelton. Red Skelton. He played the Mean Widow Kid on radio. He did the Willie Lump Lump and Clem Cadell Hopper.
Red Skelton is still,
he's still
visiting
going
colleges and that sort of thing, entertaining.
He's in his 80s. Spike Jones and his City Slickers. And one of those guys, I think, maybe is Doodles Weaver. Spike is on the right in the conservative suit.
Very conservative. Talk about wild music, right?
Yeah. That looks like Walter Winchell.
Yep.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. North and South America and all the ships at sea. Let's go to press.
Ooh.
Oh, boy.
Did that jar a few memories out there? Because
those were the days.
Those were the days. What's the chance of radio ever coming back? I mean, if people are enjoying those things that much, isn't there any thought? Don't people try to
you're talking about
the same
radio,
kind,
some new material, newly produced material. Pat, it's been tried so many times.
And it doesn't work?
It has a limited audience because of the limited dollars that are put against it.
You know what? I'm getting the rap signal over here. We could have talked. Would you come back sometime?
Sure, I'd be glad to.
Thanks, Chuck Schaden. It's a pleasure having you here. I'm happy to have you here. Glad you were here with us today, too. We're coming back tomorrow. See you then. Bye-bye. Thanks. lifestyle. If it's not one thing, it's another. Live weekdays at 5:30 on Channel 3.